and welcome. My name is Gage Oxley. I'm the writer and director of Wretched Things, which has this fabulous man, Tommy Vilés, starring in the lead role as Ollie. And you were also in Pulse, which we shot 2 years ago now. What was that like?
Fantastic. Thank you, Gage. Thank you for having me. Pulse was fantastic. It was my first proper introduction for production to you, and I just loved it. Loved the vision, loved the LGBT vibe, and what you were going for, the goals, the objectives of what you were the message you were trying to portray, and yeah, I just loved it. Loved every minute of it. So I made a few friends on the shoot, and then obviously stayed in touch, and then obviously said I'd love to work with you again, and then I remember you saying you had something in mind, and you were it was in the development process, and then obviously that led on to Wretched Things. So yeah,
and then now we're here. So Wretched Things. I mean, Wretched Things was a super exciting, bold, and quite terrifying project. I imagine for you, very terrifying. What was that like a year ago, or just over a year ago now? We were about to go on set of that project. How were you kind of preparing for that role?
Has it really been a year already?
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
That's incredible. Okay. Wow, where's the time going? Okay, so it was terrifying to an element of I loved Ollie. Ollie's character, I fell in love with Ollie's as soon as I read the script. I resonated with him in so many ways. I thought this guy's going through so much, and there was elements of depression in there, and as I've said before, there were so many layers to his character that I just thought, this really is a bit of me here. I need to just step into this. But obviously, with the layers of Ollie, there came the challenge of the physicality side of it, as we were just saying about the exposure and whatnot, which was quite demanding. But that's what real acting is, I think. It's got to be demanding, it's got to be challenging, and I love a challenge. So I thought, let's get stuck in. So yeah, it was terrifying, but you and the guys were so supportive. You were so delicate with me, and it was just great. It was great because it was great to just to have that support network around me, and it made a huge difference. It definitely impacted my character of Ollie hugely.
Good. Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that, and I'm glad that you said yes, because otherwise we wouldn't have had such a fantastic portrayal of a really sensitive issue and a very delicate character, as you said, that kind of introduction about webcam sex work, which is something that's very prominent today with a lot of modern technology, but also then the backdrop of depression and financial pressures which we are all facing. That kind of idea was stunningly portrayed by yourself, so thank you, Tommy. I'm sure a lot of people who've really enjoyed the film say the same too. So as I said, we finished filming Wretched Things with you after 2.5 days, which is crazy that we managed to pull that off in such little time. But then we had a full other month with the other crew members and the other cast and the other projects. But we kind of spoke a bit in between, but the first time you actually saw the film was when you sat down in the seat at View in Leicester Square. What was that like, kind of seeing that on the big screen for the first time there?
So that was a double whammy for me, because the first time I went, that was actually not only the first time I was seeing Ollie and seeing Wretched Things, full part 1, 2 and 3, but also my first ever red carpet event, my first ever film premiere. Like, I went to a film premiere as a guest beforehand, but that was actually the first one I was actually in it. So
wow,
that was the first stepping onto the red carpet as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of a cool moment for me. And to be part of your project was like a double bonus, really, Gage, because I just thought, yes, this is something that I'm really passionate about. And what better than to have your first time on the red carpet for a production that you actually care, like really care for the portrayal of the character and as an actor. So that was a double whammy. So I was so excited. I had the best time. It was an amazing venue. Leicester Square is beautiful. and to see it on screen and to see Ollie being, effectively me seeing a story from just as a viewer. I was just going as an audience member. Really, who is Ollie?
Yeah.
What's this character about? What's this story? Because the story's so much more. That's why we're in the game. Really, the game we are really, because it's about telling great stories. And I feel like seeing that was just, it was amazing. It was so amazing to see on the big screen.
Big screen. Was it intimidating at all? Because obviously Ollie's character emotionally was quite difficult, I guess, to kind of have to pull at those strings inside. But as an actor, you literally bared everything out on the big screen. Was that quite intimidating to see such vulnerability, both emotionally but also physically?
It was a strange one because I feel like I almost evolved a little bit with the product, because the production, because effectively, like, I feel like all my insecurities and stuff I almost like unearthed when I was on set. So I went for a real journey on some moments. I remember a particular time when I came to my aid at one particular scene, because I remember thinking, Gage, I just can't get through this moment. And you were so great with me, because it was kind of like and I think what it was because acting can be therapy for many people, because you kind of, especially I'm a method actor, so I do try to dive into some emotional connection of some kind to try and draw some sort of paradigm between the two. And connect, and I feel like once I went down that rabbit hole, I was like, okay, yeah, I can see where Ollie is here, and how this all clicks in and stuff, and so I feel like I left it all on set. It was really healing for me. It was like a great experience, because I've experienced depression myself, so that was a great way of connecting it, and being like, oh, cool, like, Ollie went through this, I went through this, other people went through this, so that was really nice. And then obviously, but then once it's on the big film, it's kind of like, oh, it's just, it's a story now, it's become, it's about Ollie now,
Yeah, you kind of remove yourself a little bit more there, I guess.
Exactly.
So we've got some questions from our fantastic fans on Patreon. So I'm just going to get them up. If you can bear with me 2 seconds. There we go. So I guess the first question actually ties into something we've already discussed. This is from Lola on our Patreon. She asks, what attracted you to your role in Wretched Things, and how challenging was it for you?
So what attracted to me was, again, the script, reading it up, and just the layers of the character, really. The challenges, I would say, diving into any character is always challenging anyway, because there's so many layers to that individual, and you also want to plant a few things in there that are very different from yourself, because, as well as obviously the resonation of where you want to connect emotionally, you need the contrast, because by putting in a few things, that, like, just a couple of flags here and there that are not relevant to you, but could be relevant to the character, which are relevant to the character because you're ultimately building them. So you can kind of have that little bit of, oh yeah, I wonder, what's his favourite football team, or was he with anyone before this? What happened before this moment in time that we're shooting, and what's going to happen after, and just a mind side of that. So the challenge really is building the character again, but again, the biggest challenge for Ollie was the physicality. Sort of dropping my kegs for 2.5 days, I think.
Yeah, I can imagine.
in a room full of people with a boom operator and whatnot.
And a camera pointing right at you. So, one of the things, obviously the film that we look at, Wretched Things, challenges a lot of different things. The first chapter, the Me Too. Your chapter, the webcam, sex work, and chapter 3, homophobia, with the background of the AIDS crisis in the 90s. Your chapter, though, is very specific in kind of exploring sexuality online. Now, that a lot of people disagree with. There's all these comments about don't do online sex work, and there's kind of a lot of taboo there. What is your kind of opinion on it? What's your feeling about that? Because you took on such that character.
Yeah, sure. I mean, sex is an innate thing. Part of being a human being. I mean, you can't shy away from it. No matter what, you just can't shy away from that. So I think ultimately, like, if people want to go online and do sex cams, or even right from online all the way up to being an escort, or whatever. I mean, ultimately people are selling them themselves in a way, but some people don't see it as that. It depends on how you value what you value about yourself, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would never judge anyone based on that, because I say, well, it's your body, you're entitled to do with it as you wish, because you've been graced the gift of that, and so you see fit with it as that. I mean, as long as you're not hurting other people, I think ultimately it's about if you're not doing anything wrong. And I think people criminalize a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel that the control element can sometimes lead to more problems. I mean, ultimately people just want to express themselves in their own way. And if people get their kicks from being online and enjoying the intention, and it's fun, and they're earning a bit of money, then I don't see what the problem is, really.
Exactly, and I hope in some way we've managed to kind of bring that across with Ollie, and I know you definitely have, because as much as the film might not end up great, he still made a lot of money. He became less isolated. He became more confident in himself, in his body, and so despite all of the negative parts of it which he found, there is definite positives. And we wanted to create that balance with Wretched Things Chapter 2. Did you feel that was quite important while making the film?
Yeah, definitely, because it almost gave Ollie purpose as well, because that's the other thing. Ultimately people are all looking for purpose. They're looking for something to do, their clan, their vibe, their tribe, what they want to pursue, their goals, their ambitions, and if you connect with something, sometimes you don't always have a choice in what you connect with.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ollie genuinely had a point in his journey where he was like, hang on a minute, like, I'm curious about this, and I'm naturally quite good at it.
We have another question from our Patreon. For those who are not part of our Patreon, this is my time to brag about it and tell you about it. For less than $3 a month, that's less than a coffee, you can support us continuing to make provocative, challenging, independent film, while also getting amazing perks like this Q&A. You get it a few days beforehand. You get exclusive photos, exclusive behind the scenes. We even do giveaways and competitions. So please support us. Thank you. So this is another question. They ask, have you ever recorded yourself masturbating? That's quite an upfront question. Do you think and hope that this movie will help people understand the risk of it nowadays with social media? That's a really important point, actually, because, I mean, we learned from the film at the end that your actions are recorded. They are. Once you've done something online, once you've said something online, it's there to stay. So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I have no secrets, to be honest, Gage. I mean, ultimately, I had a time when I was about 12 or 13. I don't know if you remember the old MSN.
God, yes.
Obviously, used to have like when I lived, my mum and dad, when we were together, we all lived in that house, whatever. Go out as a 12-year-old, sort of young and sort of horny 12-year-old teenager, and I remember being on MSN, and someone would add you, and go, oh, who's this? And I remember chatting to this girl online. I never met her. I actually don't know how she got my address or anything, but she had a webcam and I had a webcam, and we used to webcam each other and stuff, and yeah. But by about, I must be about 13, I think, something like that. And she was like, oh, we were teasing each other and stuff, and then obviously ended up doing some some enjoyable activities.
Yeah. So we have another question here from our Patreon. This role required a lot from you. That certainly did. What are your boundaries as an actor? Would you ever do frontal nudity for a movie?
I thought about this actually. I think maybe. I mean, I would never rule it out completely, but I think with where I am at the moment with my career, is obviously as you know, Gage, we've had many discussions about this. Obviously, I do a bit of commercial modelling on the side, and some of my clients are very sort of like family orientated, should I say. So obviously I've got a lot of contracts with them that are currently in play. You know, I've got like buyouts that last 2 or 3, some of them up to 5 years. So at the current state of affairs, I would probably say no. But I would never rule it out, because I mean I've watched films like Michael Fassbender in Shame. Yeah. And he blew me away in that film.
Yeah. And I think, sorry to jump in there, just on Michael Fassbender, because I know we talked about that film before we shot Wretched Things Chapter 2, is that I suppose often in nudity, there's a lot more films with nudity in it nowadays that's kind of not used sexually. You know, it's not used as a technique for, you know, arousal or anything. And I guess Wretched Things is one of those films, because we use nudity in a way that is in a sexual setting, but actually it's not enjoyable to watch. It's quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's quite uncomfortable, yeah.
So do you think, I mean, because this film has challenged all of us, we set out to challenge and push those boundaries. Do you feel that actually did with this?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think it was I think we definitely challenged me. I think it was challenging for everyone, and I think there were so many moments where I was just like, oh, you know, can I do this? You know, that thought process goes through your brain. You're like, no, you can. You know, you've, you know, it's just another. It's a new experience. It's another obstacle that you can kind of overcome. You know, I truly believe that that's where human spirit really lies. Is in the overcoming of something. You know, without challenge, you wouldn't be able to know what you're capable of, because you wouldn't really be able to measure it. If everything was easy, you'd just think, you know, it's so it's important. I mean, there's no other way. You know, we're going to face challenges whether we like it or not. So
exactly. And now our last question from our Patreon is: what is next for you? Any projects in the running, and would you like to work with Oxygen Films again? Hopefully that's a yes.
Well, the latter, I can definitely say yes. 100%. Any day of the year, Gage, I'll work with you. 100%.
Thank you.
You've got an amazing crew. You're real visionaries for where you're going. You know where you're going, which is so important. And yeah, I love telling stories with you. So.
Thank you. That's very kind. Same to you. Every day of the week, I'd want to work with you.
Thank you. And in terms of my next project, I've just been cast in a film called Mia, working title Mia. I'm playing the role of JD, which is a bit of a hooligan. He's actually a drug dealer. As far as the script is not quite developed fully at this time. But there's a lot of people getting on board with it. I'm going to play a bit of a villain, hence the haircut.
Nice. Yeah.
So we are not shooting till sort of later in the year. It's quite a long shooting process. There's a lot of people that are getting on board. Yeah, so that's my next thing. But other than that, I've got nothing as yet. I'm sure some opportunity will come along in the pipeline.
So if you are a filmmaker, do click on the Instagram in the description for Tommy. It's at Tommy Vilés. He's an incredible actor, and you should definitely work with him. So there you go. That's your shout out.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And did you notice how I magically appeared?
Yes, it's almost as if we had some tech issues there in the middle of that cut. So we've also got some other questions from our Patreon, which I'm going to hand over to you now, so I can stop I can stop being the host. So I'm going to hand over that microphone to you.
This is the first question from the Patreons. Firstly, was how do you find the ideas and the powerful messages for your movies?
Oh, cool. Okay. I'm glad people find them. They are powerful, because when I'm writing it, I just kind of write what comes to my head and hope that it's received well and people feel the same as me. So it's always nice to hear that people are impacted by it. But I guess the way that it comes is just opening my eyes and like looking up. I think a lot of the time a lot of people don't do that often, because we are kind of stuck in this cycle of looking down, looking at technology or being at work and just getting on with life and then watching the TV. But actually when you look up, there's so much there. And so I find that actually a lot of the ideas come from just witnessing things around me, from conversations I have with people, from movies that I watch. A huge amount of ideas come from songs I listen to when I'm going places, just from a title or a lyric. It's not easy, and in fact I was saying to you earlier, Tommy, that this is the very first time in 5 years I've been in I've been in post-production of a film, a distribution of a film, and not been in pre-production of my next one, which is terrifying, because for the first time in 5 years I have time to explore things and do that again, without that distraction. So that's been quite nice.
The second question from the patrons is, I really love the hot male actors in your movies, but is it a possibility for you to do an LGBT movie around girls?
Cool. Okay, yeah, that's a fantastic question, and one that we are wholeheartedly for, because we over the last few years we've been doing a series called The Odyssey, which started with This Where We Live In, then Pulse, then Wretched Things, and then Tog. That series we made to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the partial decriminalisation of homosexuality in the UK, and it was about masculinity. It was about homosexuality in men and how that affects that kind of strong image and the kind of the Greek art and how that is inspired. We've finished that now, so it means that we can kind of explore some different things.
This might be for you, Gage.
Okay.
Some of your sex scenes in Wretched Things can be very arousing for the audience.
Oh, yeah?
How do you feel about men or women being aroused watching your stuff? Is it awkward or rewarding?
I guess we can both answer this one if you want to jump in. But I think for me, I've said this in the Q&A actually last time, after the film in America, that Wretched Things was designed, and in fact same with This Where We're Living in a way, to kind of bring that arousal as part of the film, because I think that sex and sexuality is a really, really key part of everyone's life, but arousal specifically brings a certain vulnerability to people, and people feel automatically quite vulnerable, impacted, ashamed, or excited and energized. There's a lot of different emotions that only come from being aroused that no other emotion can bring, and so
that's true.
By threading certain feelings for our audience, and by presenting certain visual imagery that is genuinely or generally something that's quite arousing, and then to change it at the last second and being like, actually, why are you aroused, and bringing those questions to like, should you be aroused by this? Is this character enjoying it? Why are you enjoying it? And kind of bringing those really important questions that actually start making people think a little bit more. Hopefully that means that then the audience is psychologically just as vulnerable as the actors and the characters that we present to them.
Off the back of what you just said, really, Gage, I mean, personally, I don't mind. I don't mind if people are aroused by it, because ultimately it's about making people feel things.
Exactly as you said, we want people to feel something. There's nothing worse. I was having this conversation with a few people after we finished the film, because I was terrified by it. I hated everything that I was feeling about the film. That kind of feeling, once we released it, everyone was saying, well, it doesn't matter if no one likes it. It doesn't matter if someone hates it, if someone comes up to you and says, I bloody hate this film, it's dreadful, it made me so angry, it was gratuitous, it was awful, I didn't get the message, everything like that, that's what I want, that's what I love. Because if someone's feeling that, I'd prefer that to someone going, that's alright, it's okay. That's if we're making people feel something, that's the main thing.
So question 4 from our patrons is what is it for you, what is for you the movie that aroused you or keeps arousing you the most, and why?
That's a very interesting question. Goodness, let me think. I don't mind. I guess, the one, emotionally, the one that has stuck with me for over a year and has completely suffocated me daily to this day is Call Me By Your Name, which stars Timothée Chalamet and Armie Hammer, directed by Luca Guadagnino. It's just the most perfect film. It is rich and exciting and slow and beautiful. Like everything, the cinematography in it just makes you feel so warm and nice. And it's got this stunning story performed insanely well by Timothée Chalamet, who's one of my favourite upcoming actors. I think it has to be Call Me By Your Name.
But yeah, so the fifth question and final from our patrons is more movies or series feature male frontal nudity now. Is it something that you would like to show more in your movies as well?
That's an interesting question, and one that we have had to think about, making films about sex and sexuality. The whole point of that, I guess, is kind of nudity. You can't really have one without the other. And so, as they mentioned, there's a lot more happening now in terms of full frontal nudity. One of my favourite series of recent is Euphoria, which is on HBO, starring Zendaya, produced by Drake. It's just this massive series that does nudity just so well, because it explores it in just such a realistic way. And God's Own Country, shot just 15 minutes down the road from me, a BAFTA winner, everything about it was fantastic. That had some of the most poignant nudity, and I think now we are just used to seeing it a lot more, to the point where it doesn't have to be explicit or gratuitous or over the top. And I think it's, for me, the only time I'd ever do it is if the story required it.
Yeah,
I think
required. Yeah,
because I think otherwise, if you're just putting nudity in for nudity's sake, if you're doing it for the audience, or if you're doing it for yourself, or doing it for whatever reason, it doesn't work, and you can feel that. But if it's for the story, if it's for the character, then that's the difference. Thank you so much for being part of this Q&A, Tommy.
Pleasure, mate, honestly.
I'm sure we will have a lot more in the future. If you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe to our YouTube, and remember to push the notification button, because YouTube just doesn't do a very good job. And also subscribe to our Patreon, follow us on our social media at Oxygen Film, and follow Tommy on his social media. All of the links are in the description below. For now, thank you so much, Tommy, for joining us. I can't wait to work with you again, and I hope people go and see Wretched Things. It's available on Amazon Prime right now.
Then we've got you a major deal. Tomorrow, Flair Magazine, 9 a.m.
Our magazine reaches 2 million unique readers every single week. That's 2 million eyes on you.
Hey everyone, yeah, it's my first stream show, Play Nice.
I took a blow straight into my mid-20s. It's one of my biggest regrets. I feel like I lost my entire youth.
No, it's cool, I can come back into it.
I'm just cooking actually, if you want to come in and have something to eat.